The aim of this lesson is to develop your understanding of some of the most fundamental concepts of CSS: the cascade, specificity, and inheritance. These control how CSS is applied to HTML and how conflicts are resolved. CSS stands for cascading style sheets, and that first word, cascading, is incredibly important to understand. The way that the cascade behaves is key to understanding CSS. Style sheets cascade. At a very simple level, this means that the order of CSS rules matter. When two rules both have equal specificity, the one that comes last in the CSS is the one that will be used. The CSS Cascade is an algorithm by which the browser decides which CSS styles to apply to an element. A lot of people like to think of this as the style that wins. Here are the attributes that the CSS Cascade algorithm checks. These are listed in order from highest weight to least weight: origin and importance, selector specificity, order of appearance, and initial and inherited properties. The highest weighted attribute that the cascade checks is a combination of the importance and the origin of a given rule. As far as the origin of a CSS rule goes, there are three places that a rule can come from: the user agent. These are the default styles provided for the element by the browser. This is why inputs can look slightly different on different browsers. It's also one of the reasons that people like to use CSS, because they can reset the user agent styles and make sure that they're overridden. Basically, they're able to start from scratch and make whatever styles they want. The user. These are defined and controlled by the user of the browser. Not everyone will have one, but when people do add one, it's usually for overriding styles and adding accessibility to websites. And finally, the author. This is CSS declared by the HTML document. When we're writing stuff as front-end developers, this is really the only origin that we have in our control. When the browser comes up against two or more conflicting CSS declarations and one wins at the origin and importance level, the CSS Cascade resolves to that rule. No questions asked. However, if the conflicting declarations have the same level of importance or origin, the cascade moves to consider selector specificity. This is the second weight in our CSS Cascade. In this tier, the browser looks at the selectors used in the CSS declaration. As a front-end developer, you only have control over the author origin style sheet on your websites. You can't do much to change the origin of a rule. Similar to the way that the combinations of origin and importance each have their own weight, different types of CSS selectors are assigned priority. When evaluating specificity, the number of selectors and their priority are considered. CSS selectors can belong to one of the following weighted tiers: inline styles. This is anything inside an element tag. ID selectors, class or pseudo selectors, and type selectors. The last main tier of the CSS Cascade algorithm is resolution by source order. When two selectors have the same specificity, the declaration that comes last in the source code wins. And finally, we have initial and inherited properties. While initial and inherited values aren't truly part of the CSS Cascade, they do determine what happens if no CSS declarations are targeting an element. In this way, they determine default values for an element. Inherited properties will trickle down from parent elements to children elements. Let's look at how some of these things will affect our page. Here I have a very basic page. It has an H1, it has a section element, and inside the section there are 4 div elements. The first 3 divs all have classes of box. The 4th div has no class. And the second div actually has a class of box as well as an ID of special. Let's look at how specificity, the order of appearance, and the initial and inherited properties could affect these elements on our page. We'll start off with looking at inherited properties. Currently, in my CSS file, I have specified the background color and the font family as being sans serif. This is an example of inherited properties at work. As you can see, all of the elements on my page, everything that resides within the body element, is being styled with the font family of sans serif. So even though we never implicitly set a font family on our H1 or on our paragraph tags, they are being affected by the rules that we have specified. Let's go into the style file and let's make a rule on our H1. I'll go ahead and specify that the color of the H1 be set to orange. Now, as you can expect, when I refresh my page, you can see that the color of the H1 is orange. Now, if I went ahead and made another rule for orange, and we set the color to teal, and we save our page, when we refresh, you can see that the color now turns to teal. In this way, we are targeting the exact same element, but the style that's going to win over is the one that comes later in our style sheet. Now, if we go back to our HTML page, and let's add a style element in the head, and let's also target the H1 element. And here I'll set the color to violet. You can see when I save my page and refresh in the browser, the color of the H1 turns to violet. Because we are declaring the embedded styles after our linked styles, they will win over the linked styles. If I was to load my linked styles after the style tag like this, now the H1 will turn back to being teal, because now this is the last thing that's loaded. I like to think of the styles that are going to win are going to be the styles that are closest to the element. Currently, the link element is closer to the H1 than the style element. And finally, if we add an inline style to this particular element, and we'll just set the color to forest green. If I save my page and we refresh, you can see that the color of the H1 now changes to forest green. Once again, this is going to win over the other styles that we've specified because it's closest to the element. For the most part, inline styles will always take over any of these other styles. The only caveat to this is if you use the keyword of important. I'm going to come back to my H1 that has a color of violet. This currently has the least amount of specificity compared to our other styles that we've specified. However, if I do add the exclamation and then the word important, this is going to force this rule to override any of the other rules. When we refresh, you can see that the H1 color goes back to violet. The important keyword is a special piece of CSS which you can use to overrule any of the other rules, but it is worth noting that you need to be very careful when you use important. Important is not really recommended since it makes it very hard to update or override the styles in the future. I recommend looking at one of the other options in regards to specificity before you go ahead and try to use important. For right now, I'll just comment out this element so it's no longer going to affect our H1 element. Let's move on and talk a little bit more about the specificity. What we'll do is we'll set some styles on these divs. I'm going to go into my style file and I'm going to make a rule for the div elements. We will add a border to our divs, and I'm also going to define a width and a height. If we save now and we refresh, you can see that each of my boxes is going to appear with a border around it. Now currently all divs are being affected by this. If we go ahead and specify a rule for .box, remember our first 3 div elements have this class assigned to them, and we add a border of 4 pixels and orange red, you can see that those 3 div elements are now styled in this manner. Even though we're targeting the same elements, .box, the class, is more specific. So it is going to overwrite the less specific type selector. Now let's target the only box that has an ID. This is box 2, and you can see that it has the class of box as well as the ID of special. So if I go ahead and I target the border one more time, and we'll set it to solid. Let's set it to 8 pixels for a width, and we'll set it to yellow. If we save and we refresh, you can see that this now overrides the more general class. Now you might be thinking, well, you just showed us how the order is going to affect these things. Let's change the order of this up a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select the ID and class. We'll cut these and we'll put them before the generic rule for div. And let's actually move the ID rule and put it above the class-based rule. So now, in theory, if we were following the same method that we used on our H1 element, the selector that comes last should overwrite these other selectors. Normally this would be the case, but you can see nothing changes on my page. The reason why is because of specificity. The type selectors are less specific than class selectors, which are less specific than ID selectors. And all of these would be less specific than an inline selector. So if we did have an inline rule on one of these elements, it would override these other options that we've already specified. In addition to the selector types that we've discussed and the specificity that we have outlined in this exercise, I do want to share one more method of creating specificity. If we jump back into the HTML, you can see that I have 4 divs. They are set up very similarly in that each one contains a paragraph. So right now, if we go into the CSS and we make some change to our paragraph element, let's use text align center to center the text, and let's use font weight bold. And if we save, you'll notice that all of the divs now have bold paragraph text and the text is centered. Now, currently, this is a general paragraph rule. It is targeting any paragraph on my page. If I went back to my page and I added a paragraph of text up here, this paragraph would also be affected by these rules. In this case, I only want to affect the paragraphs that are within the divs. I can do that by using a Descendant Selector. If we go back to the CSS and if we change our selector to div space p, this is now what we refer to as a Descendant Selector, which means that we're setting up some criteria that this rule must follow. This rule is now more specific. In this situation, we are looking for a paragraph tag that is a child of a div. So if we save our CSS and go back into the browser, you can see that the first paragraph reverts back to the default styles. It is no longer affected by our paragraph rule, and only the paragraphs that are children of the divs are now going to be affected by this rule. And we could do all sorts of things to be more specific. Like we could add a div.box here, which means that now it's going to be looking for divs with class names of box and targeting the children paragraph. So if we were to save and refresh, you can see how the 4th box, this is the one that does not have the class name of box, is not affected by these rules. As you can see, there are many ways that you can target the unique elements within your HTML page. You don't always need to assign a class or an ID to an element to be able to target it. Sometimes you can just consider the DOM, the document object model, and set up your selectors so that they take advantage of the structure of the HTML elements. The Descendant Selectors is one way that we can do that. Understanding the cascade and specificity will help you to write better CSS. This is one of the more misunderstood parts of CSS, and often the source of many bugs. Knowing how it works will give you a huge edge on keeping your style sheets maintainable and ensuring that you're using the correct selector types.